You are watching the Noise Commander 3DS channel. Here I document the progress of my homebrew beatmaking app for the Nintendo 3DS and 2DS that I develop. Think DJ mixing of tracker-style sequences with groovebox features such as probability and Euclidean rhythms. Please subscribe if that sounds interesting to you and install the demo version via the Universal Updater app on your console. I will first talk about the new features, followed by various other topics. Did you install the Noise Commander demo but could not be bothered to upload your own samples? Because using an SD card reader and physically swapping the SD card is too tedious? Or because you would need to unscrew the backplate of your new 3DS model? Or because you would need to launch an FTP client to upload files and then launch Noise Commander again every time? Yeah, I know, that sucks. Well, I have good news for you. With version 0012 you can upload files such as sample packs simply from your web browser or the Linux terminal, even with the free demo version. Let me show you a few examples of how it's done. In order to upload the piano zip file, I go here, select upload, press A, open this address in my web browser, and then drag my zip file into the browser. It's gonna take a moment, and you see it's decompressing the WAV files, and here are the files like expected. I should mention that for a reason unknown to me, the transfer rate is about 10 times slower in Firefox when compared to Chrome or curl. It seems that Firefox pauses after each packet transfer. I don't know whether there is a setting which may improve this. The average transfer rate in Chrome is 300 kilobytes per second. For example, a 25 megabyte sample pack takes about 2.5 minutes to transfer and decompress. Most time is spent decompressing, and the number of files affects the duration more than the combined size. The 3DS file system is slow when dealing with large amounts of small files. Normal files are placed in a directory called upload. Files ending with .zip or .wav are placed in the samples directory. CIA files are placed in a directory named CIA. I will add the ability to install CIA files from inside the app for making it easier to install updates or older versions. This may eventually replace the dedicated installer app because it reduces some maintenance burden that I have due to the Patreon API causing trouble. I would like to stop relying on it. I will also add the ability to download files such as recorded jam sessions from the 3DS in the future. This screen lets you assign different instruments to each of the 12 pads and/or assign variations to these values. Cloning instruments allows you to make further variations like different loop points or envelope settings, etc., and record a performance. You can find the instrument palette inside the lower pad screen and open it from the menu, which appears when pressing the second button from the bottom left. Shortcuts: hold the pad and press the D-pad left or right to increment or decrement the instrument number. Hold a pad and press D-pad up to start dragging a pad. When the touch is released before the D-pad, then a pop-up menu offers 3 operations. Copy copies the dragged pad. Swap exchanges the dragged and the dropped pads. Clone clones the instrument to a free slot and creates a new instrument. When the D-pad is released first, then the last operation is repeated without showing the pop-up menu. Holding a pad and pressing down on the D-pad shows the edit menu. Here you can edit the note offset and volume, etc. A sound preview is played every time you change a value. Press B or down again to close the menu. The overridable attributes are instrument number, note offset in semitones, volume, slice number, sample number like Electron Sample Tricks, lane to play on. Note that the pads now show an instrument number rather than the track number. Each of the 12 tracks provides its own palette for you to customize. In order to display a tracks palette, you need to first select a tracks pad while being in pads mode and then open the instrument palette view again. Note that every palette pad instrument number initially matches the track number. The instrument palette can function like mute groups. I made a drum kit on the first track where each column of pads is assigned to a different lane. When I record notes, they are inserted to their respective channels. You can load a sample directly onto a palette pad by selecting it, pressing down to go to the browser, and when you select a sample you choose to palette As you can see, it created a new sample. So there's the drum kit on track 1, and then on track 2 I have just a few snares. So this one has a lower volume, this one has loop enabled to create a roll, this one just has a different note. This one has loop enabled and a slow attack to create a riser effect. Last but not least, a few smaller changes. The effect screen is now easier to reach simply by pressing left on the D-pad. Pressing right on the D-pad now shows the tracker at the top and the drum pads or piano at the bottom. When the follow mode is toggled off by pressing B, and if the record mode is enabled, then notes can be inserted to the selected cell via the piano or drum pads. The very last change may cause confusion, it certainly did for me. The user can no longer insert notes into the phrase number 0. Phrase 0 is a placeholder that you should insert into the matrix editor when you want the playhead to travel along silently. You might need to delete or change your template song because originally the first row contained pattern 0. However, it is no longer possible to record inserted notes into pattern 0, and you should assign pattern 1 or a different one instead. I forgot about this myself, and I thought that I introduced a bug when I installed the new version on a different console. Ada Pro Watermelon asked me how to play the piano with Noise Commander in the Patreon community chat. Apologies for taking so long to answer. First, select the pad that you want to load the sample on. Press down a few times until you see the file browser. Navigate to your samples directory. Choose the sample you want. Press A again to assign it to the instrument. Press piano here. When I slide my finger over, you might hear that the notes are quantized. If you don't want that, press left again to show the instrument screen, press B and right on the C pad to jump to the second page, and then select InQuant and set it to 0. Now you can play unquantized. And you also want to set play mode to 1 so that you can play short or long notes. About MIDI clock synchronization via infrared. Before Christmas last year, Impbox from the M8 Discord channel suggested that I look into utilizing the infrared port for MIDI transmission, as it may be more stable than Wi-Fi. I was not even aware that the 3DS has infrared. It got me really excited as the possible baud rate is higher than the regular DIN MIDI, and this could allow controlling external hardware MIDI gear or using MIDI controllers. It seems that it is mostly known to be used by a hardware add-on that is called the CirclePad Pro for the 3DS, and some Pokemon games also allow exchanging characters over infrared. This particular flavor of the protocol is called ERDA SIR. ERDA stands for Infrared Data Association and SIR for Serial Infrared, as Wikipedia tells me. It appears to be a low-powered variant similar to what BLE is for Bluetooth, meaning it is likely not suitable as a remote control for TVs. There is a small application on GitHub from a person who calls himself Gary oder Nichts, which can transmit text between a 3DS and a Wii U. I modified the source code so that it works with two 3DSs and didn't have any problems. In my testings I concluded that the minimal distance required for operation is 18 centimeters, and of course the sensors need a clear line of sight to each other. I ordered a fairly affordable USB-based infrared transmitter from the brand Jambird first and spent several hours trying to make it work on Linux. It turns out that infrared support has been dropped from the kernel in version 4.something due to the lack of maintenance. What's worse, the particular chipset contained in the Jambird never has been officially supported. I did find source code for a driver on GitHub, but was unable to compile it, as it seems that a lot of code in the dependencies have changed over time and it just seemed like a huge time sink. I moved on to plan B, which was to buy an infrared head for the Arduino, the IRDA shield. After some hiccups, I saw live for the first time, meaning that the 3DS could actually detect the signal and receive something. Unfortunately, it was always some garbled bytes that don't resemble the original transmitted data. I spent several weekends messing with the baud rate settings and reattaching the head every time, as it cannot be reflashed while the head is on because it uses the serial port for this. I decided to stop my research at this point and started to wonder whether there is some form of encryption going on, which is also suggested by this wiki entry. Or I'm simply doing something wrong, which would not surprise me. So it's not happening anytime soon, but the good news is that this still could be used for transmitting or receiving a simple clock signal rather than MIDI notes or controller values. I dream of an Arduino or similar add-on with a custom PCB, battery driven with DIN MIDI ports to allow syncing the 3DS with MIDI enabled groove boxes. Feel free to reach out to me if you would like to volunteer to do more research in this area or design a PCB. I imagine it could use the same parts as the Arduino Shield. It's based on the MCP2120 chip, which converts the sensor data to serial UART. The open hardware specs are on their GitHub page. Another idea was to put the sensors on the end of a cable that could be attached to a 3DS, so that it could be operated in handheld mode without losing the connection. I'm not very comfortable with soldering and hardware design, but this sure would be great to have. I summarized my progress in a post in the DevKit Pro forums and will provide the link in the description for you. Fingers crossed. This is how I prepare my samples before uploading them to Noise Commander using Reaper. I drag in all the samples I want, cut them, edit them on a single track or multiple tracks, doesn't really matter. I try to make them shorter than 3 seconds if possible, and if there are stereo samples I select them all, right click, go to media item settings and select take channel mono left. This way I avoid them to be mixed, because I would be losing punch if I would mix the left and right channels. Again, I select all the samples, go to File, Render, selected media items, disable the tail, browse to the folder. So in my case I created a samples directory in the temp. Set the sample rate to whatever you want, but I tend to use 32 kHz just to save some space. And then it's really super important to set the channels to 1 or mono. Bit depth to 16-bit. I disable this BWF header. At this point I can save a preset, which I already did here, Noise Commander, so that I don't have to do this over again next time. Click on Render. So you see here are my samples. I'm going to put them into a folder called Piano. I will simply move these files into the Piano folder, and then I should be able to create a simple zip file from here. These are samples from my UnoSynth Pro that I recorded, and I'm going to share them with you. And here's sort of the same thing. I do all my editing and then I just select them, double click one by one, go to the render thing, call my preset Noise Commander. Here in the name you can give it any prefix, so let's call it Uno. And then in the wildcards you can select the item number and that will be appended, so it's gonna look like here. Yeah, and again, just create your zip file however you do it. Now these two zip files can simply be uploaded to Noise Commander and will be decompressed into the samples folder. There's one really important setting that I always enable in Reaper. You find it in the media preferences. It's this volume knob here. Now I have like a little volume knob on every clip. So if I select a single clip, you see I can adjust the volume or the gain of each clip individually. Very useful. You can also upload files from the terminal via curl. I'm providing an upload script to make it easier for you, so I'm going to show that first, but then I'm going to show you how to use curl standalone in the command line. So if you have the upload script, you have to just pass it the file path and the IP address. And hit enter. So I can see on the screen that it's doing the progress bar thing. And it's done. So let's quickly display the upload script. See, it's doing a lot of stuff just to call curl in the end here. So I'm gonna copy that. So it's curl -x post -f and then file equals at and then the file path. Then the endpoint is the file name, so you could choose a different file name if you want to rename it, but I'm just gonna call it piano.zip. And it's gonna do its thing again. I see the progress bar. It's unpacking the WAV files, and it's done. Now for a follow-up on my employment/freelancer situation. Several people reached out to me in person after my last video about me not being paid and losing my job. Thank you very much, Dave the Word, Zippy, Kefu, Bitrot, Deadboy and Mediafile. So what happened was that our team continued to work for the big client's project and we were paid for March, but the client froze the project at the start of the last week due to the uncertainty of the company being sold. They also said that they want to use the time to catch up with things on their side, meaning they are taking a break. So I still have not been paid for January and February and my freelance contract is terminated. I am unemployed. They might hire me back sometime in the future or not. I might get my previous pay or not. They're taking a break and I'm taking a break. I have savings and I will live off them from now on. I feel that I earned the luxury of pursuing my hobby for a few months, so I am going on a Noise Commander sabbatical. The project is extremely important to me and I really want to do it. Primarily for myself, as I want a portable sequencer groovebox that is fun to jam on and works exactly as I want it to, so that I can hopefully make music with it that I like. Secondarily, to share the fun with you, the audience, and to try to generate an income based on what I'm passionate about and love to do. No matter how unrealistic and delusional this may be, I want to try it anyway. Don't worry about me, I will be fine and I feel great. So I wanted to go into full throttle Noise Commander development mode immediately at the start of my first free week, but I realized that I was deeply tired and burned out. That is likely the aftermath of neglecting my personal needs and prioritizing to perform well at my day job during the years. So instead I rested, played video games and went for many walks, appreciating the fact that I have no more obligations and can cultivate the art of doing nothing for a bit. Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Pikmin 4 are my favorite games to play. I also recently collected all the Sonic games available for the 3DS. Sorry for promising the Matrix/tracker view tutorial for this week in the comments, it will be delayed a little more. I would like to focus on Noise Commander development as much as I can for the next 3 months or so going forward. The current reality is that Patreon is my only income. It's generating 40 euros per month now, which is a new record. It would need 100 times that to replace a salary, however. Future will tell. If only 0.01% of the 67 million Nintendo 3DS owners would become paying Patreons pledging €1, then I would be completely covered. Should I need to seek a new day job, then I would like to make it half-time to continue working on Noise Commander more than only on weekends. I also want to try making more music and finding a methodology for beat making with Noise Commander and all the gear that I have accumulated. So what's the immediate future outlook? Nobody is seriously using Noise Commander regularly at this point, not even myself. It's just not good enough yet. It is good enough when using it feels like fun, and it just doesn't. Apologies to everyone who was intrigued by the potential of Noise Commander only to find out that it's lackluster and unfinished. There need to be more ways of modulating the audio to allow sculpting build-ups, risers, swooshes and such. Another huge problem is that the effect settings are not stored in the file, so it sounds different after reloading. I had a nice jam going the other day and grabbed my Tascam audio recorder to capture the vibe, but then I remembered that it is unnecessary because Noise Commander can record a WAV file by itself. These are only a few shortcomings. I have a whole to-do list and mind map diagram pointing out all the flaws and missing features, etc. Here's my 3-step plan for the short term. First, make separate effect instances per deck so that their values can be stored in the file. Second, add a basic playlist feature for DJing to allow performing with multiple files in succession. I believe these 2 changes will go a long way to make Noise Commander more fun. The third task is a big one that I lacked the time and headspace for a long time to do. It's parameter automation. It's a big feature which touches several areas in the code. Since the effects are inserts on the buses, I will need to introduce the buses as group lanes into the tracker view to contain automation columns. I imagine this to be very similar to Renoise, where the lanes are visually grouped by the buses. This is all I have for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.